I was driving toward nothing. That's how it felt. A flat line of highway stretched ahead like a scar across the Nevada desert. No turns, no towns, no reason to keep going, except for that sound, the signal. I picked it up 2 nights ago while scanning shortwave channels out of boredom. It was faint, buried under static, not a voice, not a song, just a list. Graham Mallory, 1942, Linda Cho, 1973, Evan Malik, 1984. That's what stopped me. My name, my year. Perfectly clear, perfectly calm, like a librarian reading from an old forgotten card catalog. At first, I thought it was a prank, but the next night it played again. Same names, same order, same time, 3:44 a.m. And when I tried to record it, the audio file corrupted instantly. So I did what I always do when I can't explain something. I followed it. I don't remember falling asleep at the wheel, but the sky changed. Sunlight peeled over the mountains, flat and colorless. My GPS stopped updating. My compass spun in place, but the signal? It got stronger. And just before the road became dust, I saw something on the horizon. A silhouette. Tall, thin, like a watchtower without a name. I parked a few hundred feet away. There was no sign of activity. No road, no fence, not even wind. The tower rose maybe 60 feet high, its surface a patchwork of concrete and scorched steel. No insignias, no power lines, no door, just one black slot cut clean into the side, waist high, like a mail drop. The static on my radio was gone now, replaced by silence. And then that same voice coming from nowhere and everywhere at once. Subject identified, Malik, Evan, memory integrity compromised, begin recalibration. I laughed, out loud, alone, but it didn't feel like a joke. I reached into my wallet and pulled out my ID, just to test a theory I didn't know I had. I slid it into the slot. Nothing happened. For a moment, then, a hiss. The wall split down the center with a smooth mechanical exhale. No fanfare, no lights, just that one quiet gesture. Come in. Inside, it was colder than it should have been. White floors, gray walls, fluorescent lighting that hummed in a strange offbeat pattern. Every corner was too clean. Every sound felt absorbed, like the building was listening. At the end of the narrow corridor, a red light blinked above a small pedestal. On the pedestal, a single item, a red bicycle. Not just any bike, my bike, from when I was 6 years old. Same dent in the frame, same missing pedal. I hadn't seen that bike in 30 years. It was stolen the summer of '91. I never got it back. And yet, here it was, waiting for me. I didn't touch the bike, I just stood there and stared at it. It looked smaller than I remembered. Lighter, like it might fall over if I breathed too hard. The red paint had dulled with age, and someone, maybe me, had scratched the initials EM into the seat post. That was real, that was mine. So how was it here? How was any of this here? A door opened behind me. Not with a sound, with a change in air pressure. I felt it before I turned. A woman stood in the frame. Lab coat, neutral expression. Thin smile. She said, "Mr. Malik, welcome back." I blinked. Back? She didn't answer, just turned and walked away. I followed, not because I trusted her, I didn't, but because that was the only door that existed. Everything else was sealed, seamless. We passed more corridors, more blinking lights, more strange stillness. And then we entered a new room, circular, empty, with a single chair at its center, and on a screen embedded in the wall, my name. Below it, 2 words flashing in white, "Re-entry initiated." "Where am I?" I asked. The woman tilted her head. "You're in the archive. You've been here before. You left a copy of yourself behind." I didn't understand, but I was beginning to. This place wasn't watching me. It was remembering me, piece by piece. And soon, it would show me everything I'd forgotten, or worse, everything I'd never done. The chair was more comfortable than it should have been. Black leather, bolted to the floor. No restraints, but I didn't feel like I could move. The woman, she never gave me her name, circled slowly behind me. "Please remain still. Re-entry is incomplete. We are restoring lost structure." Lost structure. I opened my mouth to ask something, anything, but the lights dimmed, and a projection flickered onto the far wall. Not a video, not data, a room. My childhood bedroom. Every detail, the crooked Captain Nemo poster, the crack in the ceiling, the faded blue dresser with a broken second drawer. Except there was a man sitting on the bed, wearing my face. Not how I look now. Younger. Mid-20s maybe. Different haircut. Slightly heavier, sadder somehow. He was holding something. A photograph of a woman I didn't recognize. "Who is that?" I asked. The woman behind me replied, "That's one of your possible lives. We're showing you what didn't happen, but might have. This version of you chose not to leave Hollow Creek in 2007. He married, had a daughter, died in 2041. I shook my head. I don't remember any of that. That's the point. The scene faded. A new one took its place. This time, an office. Clean. Windowless. A man, again me, sitting at a desk covered in government files. A badge read, Malik E. Data Reconstruction Division. "This one," she said, "never left the tower." I swallowed hard, because part of me, a quiet, shaking part, believed her. "I want to go now," I said. The woman behind me didn't move. "Departure is not authorized," she replied flatly. "Structural reassembly in progress." I stood anyway. The chair didn't resist. The door I came through was gone, replaced by a mirrored wall, and in the reflection, not me, him, that other version, the one from the bedroom, younger, sadder, still holding the photo. He looked straight at me and said nothing, but his eyes, they were afraid of me. I turned away, found another corridor, this one longer. Flickering red lights overhead. The walls weren't smooth anymore. They looked peeled, like the skin of the building was being removed. And underneath, wires, cables, veins, like the whole place was alive and growing. At the end of the corridor, I found a panel. Old-fashioned, keypad, dusty. But when I reached for it, the screen lit up with a message. Entry protocol. Denied access level. Unknown identity mismatch. Then it asked, would you like to restore access? YN. I didn't press anything, but it continued anyway. Restoring last known version. The lights went out. When they came back on, I wasn't in the hallway anymore. I was in a hospital room. Fluorescent ceiling, heart monitor beeping, TV in the corner, window showing nothing but static outside, and in the bed, me, an older version, pale, weak, hooked up to IVs, eyes closed. The monitor showed my vitals. Flatline. Where are you taking me? I whispered. The voice behind me, not hers this time but a different one, said, you asked to forget. We're showing you what that cost. The hospital room dissolved like smoke. I didn't walk anywhere. I just arrived. New space, new walls, same cold hum in the air. This room was bigger, circular, vaulted ceiling, lined with hundreds of thin drawers stacked like library shelves. At the center, a single desk, and on that desk, a file folder. No label, no date, just one word stamped across the front: Malik. I sat down, opened it. Inside were typed pages, old, yellowed, crisp at the edges. Transcript, subject 0148, final log, filed, April 21st, 2046. That's 20 years from now. I read, subject was cooperative through stage 3 compression. Showed signs of emotional resistance during relational playback. Final consensus: memory chain unstable, identity bleed detected. There was a pause in the text, then a line, handwritten in red. Last words recorded: I want to go back. I dropped the page. It fluttered to the floor like something alive. Because I remembered saying those words. Not here, not now, somewhere else, to someone. But the file wasn't done. Behind the last page was a photo, blurry, black and white. A man sitting in a chair facing away from the camera, cables running into his head, light pouring from a screen in front of him, and on the back of the photo, scrawled in graphite, the original. I didn't understand what that meant, but I was starting to. As I stood, all the drawers around me began to open, softly, slowly, one by one, and inside each, a copy of my name. Typed differently, signed differently, stamped and sealed like it had been processed. Hundreds of them, thousands, too many. I ran. I don't remember how I got out, only that the walls were no longer stable, bending, pulsing like lungs. I heard the voice again, the calm, non-human one from before. You are not the first Malik. You are not the last, but you are the cleanest. There were no signs anymore. No names, no lights, just endless, white corridor, and that feeling in my chest like I was walking deeper into something soft. I started to notice a change in the walls, not in shape, in texture. They looked smooth, but when I ran my fingers across them, I felt ridges, tiny lines, like fingerprint scans, stretching miles. Then I turned a corner, and the hallway opened. It wasn't a hallway anymore. It was my living room, or an attempt at it. Same rug, same coffee table. But the proportions were off. The light came from nowhere, and everything felt slightly hollow, like it was molded from memory, not made. I stepped closer. The TV turned on. No sound, just static. A moment later, an image, me, sitting right there on the couch, reading. Relaxed. But the version of me on the screen slowly turned his head and looked at the camera, then at me, and mouthed something. Wrong version. I stepped back and bumped into something. Another couch, another room, another copy. I turned around. The first version was gone. In its place was now a kitchen. Familiar, but wrong. This one had blood in the sink. My own voice echoed through the space. Which version are you? Are you the one we kept? Then silence. Then a loud mechanical thud, like a vault closing somewhere behind the wall. This place wasn't just replaying my memories. It was choosing between them. I kept walking. There was no sense of direction anymore. Every corner I turned revealed a new space, each one more familiar than the last, and more incorrect. A school hallway, trophies in the glass case, my name engraved on 3 of them, but I never played sports. A bedroom I'd never slept in, but I recognized the smell, cedar wood and orange peels. I knew where the loose floorboard was before I stepped on it. There was a drawer full of letters, addressed to Evan Joseph Malik, Elmwood Orphanage, room 12A. Dated 1993 to 1997. I picked one up. Dear Evan, you're doing so well. They say you don't speak much, but that's okay. Some of us are built for silence. My hands were shaking. Because I wasn't adopted. I was raised by both my parents. I have photos. Wait. I closed my eyes. Tried to picture their faces. My mother's laugh. My father's hand. I saw nothing, just white, like the walls. I dropped the letter. The room was gone. Now I was standing in a hospital corridor again. Dim yellow lights, peeling floor tiles. But this one had voices. Children laughing. Far away, behind frosted glass. And then I saw it. A brass plaque on the wall. Memory Reconstruction Zone 6B. Do not disturb active sequence. I reached for the handle. It turned on its own. The door opened toward me, and what I saw made my heart freeze. It was my funeral, closed casket, rain tapping on the windows, people in pews. Most I didn't recognize. Some I did, and all of them smiling like they were relieved. I stepped forward, into the funeral. But the second my foot crossed the threshold, the scene glitched, flickered, like an old VHS tape. The pews rewound, the mourners reversed their blinks, and the casket, once closed, was now ajar. Only one person moved normally, a child, sitting in the back, staring at me, face blurred, legs swinging, whispering something over and over. You're not the one, you're not the one, you're not the... I stepped back, but I didn't return to the corridor. I fell, literally. The floor collapsed and I dropped into another version of the room. Same layout, same casket, but now I was in it, lying flat, eyes open. I watched myself from above, motionless, mouth slightly parted. People passed by. No one cried. They were talking. About taxes, about parking, about football. Like I wasn't real. Then the scene paused. The image froze mid-sentence. The air became silent. And a new screen faded in from the wall beside me. A black interface. White text. It read, Potential termination events. Car accident. Drowning self-inflicted. Unknown collapse. Thermal exposure successful exit. One was marked. Unknown collapse. A cursor blinked under it. Waiting. Then a new line typed itself. Would you like to select another ending? Yes or no, I didn't touch anything. But the screen responded anyway. Crossfeed unlocked. Proceeding with active loop. The scene melted. Walls turning liquid. Lights flickering into red. And in the middle of it all, a metal door sliding open in the ground. Steps leading downward. And at the bottom, my voice, screaming, Get out! Get out! Get out of me! The staircase curved underground. Cold metal. No railing, no light, except for the faint red glow rising from below. Every step I took made a mechanical click, like a clock winding tighter. At the bottom, a narrow hallway lined with flickering overhead strips, and at the end a black glass door. Etched into the glass, archival storage, level 0. No lock, no handle. It opened when I exhaled. The room was massive, not wide, tall. Rows of suspended metal drawers stretched upward into darkness, like a server farm built for coffins. A single console sat in the center, already powered on, cursor blinking. I sat. The monitor displayed one prompt. Enter subject number. I didn't type anything, but the system did, by itself. Subject 0148, then entering profile. A new screen. Dozens of fields, most redacted, but one section was still visible. Name, Malik, Evan J. Birth date, redacted provenance. Redacted function, long-term loop stability test. Closed instance iterations. Recorded 31, that's when I saw it. At the bottom of the file, current status, active. And next to it, last, reboot, 17 minutes ago. The cursor moved again. Typed 3 words. You're still running. The monitor flashed. The text vanished. A new window opened. Audio log. Engineer ID 7FB4 session 0148.3. Status playing. Then the voice. Old. Calm. Tired male. This is revision 3. Subject shows significant adaptive patterning in grief cycles, but the loop breaks under sustained memory input. We are proceeding with reblanking and selective reintegration. My blood went cold. He wasn't talking to me. He was talking about me. We've removed the mother again. The father remains, but only as symbolic weight. In Trial 2, he attempted suicide after the birthday loop. In Trial 3, he searched for the signal. He always finds the tower eventually. The question is, which version of him makes it out? I leaned back. The room suddenly felt too big, too tall. Like the databanks weren't holding files. They were holding attempts, failed versions, discarded selves, other MEs. The audio log continued. If this version finds the root archive, initiate bypass. Do not restore Claire. We've confirmed she destabilizes integrity. Claire. That name, it hit something. I didn't remember a Claire, but my chest did. My hands shook, my eyes burned. I was missing someone I never met. And then, a second voice. Not calm. Younger, me? I remember now. You shouldn't have let me remember. I'm not going back. Static. The log cut off. And the screen changed again. New message. Reintegration incomplete. Subject awareness escalating. Recommendation containment. Then, behind me, a mechanical click. A drawer opened, and inside it, a mirror, framed in surgical steel. And when I looked into it, I didn't see myself. I saw a version of me I didn't recognize, but he was looking back and mouthing something. It's not your life, but you're the one living it. The mirror wasn't just a reflection. It was a window. Behind it, another room. Identical walls, same lighting. But on the other side, a man sat slumped in a chair, hands cuffed, face bruised, eyes dull, and I knew instantly it was me, or something that used to be. A speaker clicked on. His voice, my voice, crackled through the air. "You're early." He looked up, eyes bloodshot. "This was supposed to be loop 36. You're 32, right? Or 33? I didn't answer. He laughed, dry, broken. "Doesn't matter. I just wanted to see how many more of us they'd run before they got bored." I stepped closer to the glass. "What is this place?" He shook his head. "It's not a place, it's a question, and we're the guesses." Behind him, a screen showed dozens of versions of my face, all frozen in mid-motion, some smiling, some screaming, one covered in blood. They built us to test regret, to model guilt, to prove that even digital minds suffer from memory weight. He pointed at me. "But you got farther than most. You made it to the archive. They're scared of you." I backed away from the glass. "Why?" He smiled, teeth cracked. "Because you're starting to believe you're real." A deep tone hummed through the room. The walls shifted, slightly. The other, Evan, stood up. "They're about to erase this branch. I'm a dead thread. But you," he pressed his hand to the glass, "you might still write your own ending. so go, before they fold you back in. The mirror went black. The room pulsed once with white light, and the floor beneath me began to rise, an elevator, smooth and silent. As I ascended, the voice returned, not his, the one from the beginning. Subject 0148 detected outside containment. Terminate feedback corridor. Prepare overwrite. The elevator rose for what felt like hours. No floor numbers, no music, just that gentle hum, like a throat clearing in the dark. When it stopped, the doors opened into a chamber of glass, endless panes, each one a different version of me, standing, sitting, hiding, crying. Some asleep, some dead, each one trapped behind their own reflection. I stepped forward, my footsteps echoed twice, one real, one slightly delayed. Behind every pane, a voice played softly. Different recordings, different tones. Don't leave. Start again. She never loved you. You never existed. Repeat from the top. I turned, and each time I looked at one, the image would flicker, and the voice would change. In the center of the room was a podium. On it, a reel-to-reel recorder, running, spinning slowly, but no tape inside. Still, it whispered, "You are being remembered wrong." Suddenly, every reflection turned to look at me at once. Hundreds of me, blinking in sync. One whispered, "We're not echoes." Another, "You are." The lights flickered. The sound became louder. Overlapping versions of my voice from old memories, conversations, dreams. I heard myself as a child, as an old man, as someone angry, as someone guilty. And then, silence. Except for one version of me, far in the corner. He wasn't moving, wasn't blinking. He was writing on the glass, and the words slowly bled through to my side. Which one of us gets to finish the story? I moved toward the version of me that was writing on the glass, but when I got close, he vanished. The glass melted. Not literally, but in the way dreams rearrange. Now there was a door where he'd been. Wooden. Simple. Carved with the word teller. I opened it. Inside was a room no bigger than a closet. A microphone stood on a metal tripod. Behind it, a desk, a notebook, a flickering red recording light. And seated in the chair was me. Headphones on, eyes closed, reading. He spoke as I entered, not reacting, just continuing. You enter the room. You see yourself. You realize this is not the first time. You're being recorded even now. I stepped closer. He didn't stop. You wonder if you can change anything. You can't. You want to break the glass, but there is no glass anymore. He turned the page. Blank. Still, he read. You feel fear crawling up your neck. You remember a woman named Claire. You never met her. You missed her anyway. I shouted, "Stop!" The figure finally went still, then slowly lifted his face. Our eyes met, but his were hollow. Glass marbles, reflective, no pupils. He said, without moving his lips, "Do you want to speak?" The mic pointed toward me. I stared at it. The light blinked. Then the voice returned, deeper this time, mechanical. Not his, not mine. Something else. You were never real until you started telling. The floor dropped beneath us. Darkness swallowed the desk, the chair, the figure, everything but me. And that voice echoed one last line. Speak, or be erased. The mic stood there, waiting. Its red light pulsed like a heartbeat. I reached out, fingertips trembling, and the moment I touched it, the archive responded. All at once, every reflection in the glass chambers, every version of me, snapped to attention. They faced forward, mouths shut, eyes wide, listening. I opened my mouth, but no words came, only breath, shaky, dry, like I hadn't spoken in years. Then I heard myself say, "My name is Evan Malik, and I don't know if I've ever been real." The mic absorbed the words. No echo, no playback. But the room shifted. A panel opened on the floor. Inside, a staircase, carved from dark stone, cracked. The voice returned, not the deep one, mine, or one that once was. Narration accepted. Proceed to root layer. I looked back at the desk. The version of me that had been sitting there, the teller, was gone. Only the chair remained, still warm. I descended, one step at a time. And as I walked, I heard more voices. Others, not just mine. Fragments of other loops, other subjects. He begged to forget. She wouldn't stop screaming. They built him too well. This one got out. No, he didn't. The stairs ended in a room of mirrors, no walls, just reflections stretching into forever. And in the center, a black sphere. Floating. Humming gently. Inside the sphere, a white dot blinked, a cursor. Waiting. And text began to type. If you can tell it, you can trap it. The blinking cursor in the black sphere waited. Then, slowly, words began to appear, without sound. Root layer unstable. Loop integrity compromised. Manual intervention required. I stepped closer. My reflection surrounded me on every surface now. Endless copies of myself in infinite variations. Some whispering, some still. And then the sphere pulsed, like it had taken a breath. New text. Initiate overwrite? Yes or no? I didn't move, but the floor beneath me shifted. Glass cracked, the mirrors twisted inward. And suddenly, I wasn't standing at the sphere anymore. I was back in the corridor, the very first one. White walls, clean floor. But this time, it was different. The lights were blinking out, one by one, as if something was following me, erasing the space behind. I ran, turned corners that didn't used to exist, past doors with names I didn't know. Subject 027, terminated. Subject 0191, integration failed. Subject 00 null. At the end of the hall, a mirror door stood wide open. Inside, a version of my apartment. But not as I remembered it. This one was warped, longer, taller. The furniture was fused to the floor like it had grown there. And in the center of the room, a computer screen flickered, words crawling across it. New story accepted. Processing. Loop error. Evan Malik is narrating. A voice behind me spoke, sharp, synthetic, cold. You are not authorized to write. I turned, nothing there, but the room was closing in, walls squeezing inward. The screen blinked rapidly now. Erase, contain, adapt? And beneath that, which version are you? The walls froze mid-collapse. Everything, even sound, went still. Then I heard it, scratch, 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 not from above, not behind, from inside the walls. The floor beneath the computer peeled away like paper, and a metal arm extended out, holding a typewriter. Old, black, humming faintly, and seated beside it, a shape, cloaked, faceless, thin, elongated fingers poised above the keys. It didn't look at me. It didn't breathe, it only typed. Evan enters the room. He sees the machine. He feels watched. He asks nothing, because he already knows. My chest tightened. I whispered, "Who are you?" It paused, typed slowly, "I am the rewrite." Suddenly, the air felt heavier. My skin buzzed like static. The figure continued, "You broke the loop. I am here to close it. You narrate, I record. What I write becomes." The lights overhead flickered, not because of power, but because the page said they would. And when I looked down, there was a second typewriter. In front of me, a blank page, a blinking red light, and one line already written, "Say nothing and be erased." I sat, hands trembling. The keys were warm, familiar. My fingers hovered, unsure. Then the machine typed for me. He tries to stop it, but he already has. I stood, backed away, but the world behind me was gone, blank, white, unrendered. Only the figure remained, and my page. It typed again, "You were never made to finish, only to loop, but you got close, and that's enough to break everything." Then something new. A third typewriter, in the center. No one touched it. It typed on its own. Observer initiated. Prepare for conflict. The third typewriter rattled louder now. Its page scrolled rapidly, printing a line over and over. "You do not have author privileges. You do not have author privileges. You do not." I slammed my hands onto the desk in front of me. The moment I did, everything paused. The air stopped moving. The typewriters froze mid-keystroke. And the figure, the one called the rewrite, tilted its head slightly, as if surprised. I picked up the paper in my typewriter, held it, felt the weight of it. It was blank. But I said the words anyway. This version continues. The subject completes the loop. The archive cannot overwrite what is unfinished. A pause, then a violent crack through the floor, like ice fracturing. The room groaned, walls flickered, mirrors bent, and the third typewriter exploded into sparks. The system began rewriting in real time now. The ground beneath me reassembled, stone, then glass, then wood, then metal, as if it couldn't decide what reality we were in. The rewrite figure began typing furiously. Subject unstable. Sequence deviation 11%. Contain, contain, contain. But it was too late. The words I spoke were already true. The corridor began to collapse behind me, and ahead, a spiral staircase formed, descending into the root. I ran. As I passed the rewrite figure, it reached toward me, and for the first time I heard its voice directly, like a whisper inside my skull. "You won't like the end you write." I didn't stop. I took the stairs 2 at a time, into the dark. And as I disappeared into it, the lights above died one by one, until the archive was quiet again. And the only sound left was the low hum of a tape rewinding. The staircase ended in a massive chamber. No lights, no visible ceiling, just a dull red glow leaking up from the floor, and rows upon rows of seated figures. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all identical in posture, bent slightly forward, hands on knees, faces shrouded in veils of static, silent, watching. I walked between them. The air smelled like old film, hot plastic, burnt air. Each figure sat inside a translucent cube like a booth. A monitor in front of them, flickering images I couldn't make out. But I recognized the rhythm. It was me, different versions of me. One throwing up blood, one staring into a mirror, one kneeling beside a hospital bed. Each archivist watched a loop, and none of them blinked. Then I saw it, a placard mounted beneath one of the booths. Archivist 3148. Subject observed. Malik E. Duration 2,918 hours. I stepped closer. The archivist's monitor showed me, in the typewriter room. Still seated, still afraid. That already happened. It was playing it back. But I hadn't seen this angle before. It was shot from above. And then, the figure in the booth moved. It turned its head toward me, just slightly, and its static veil began to thin, not disappear, just shift, like a hand brushing dust from a window. And behind it were my eyes. Not a copy, mine. The archivist with my eyes didn't blink, didn't move, just stared. But something about the stare changed everything. It wasn't curiosity or hostility. It was something deeper. Recognition. I reached out and touched the edge of the booth. No resistance. The wall rippled like the surface of still water and let me pass through. Inside, the air was warmer, denser, the hum louder. I stepped beside the archivist's chair. It didn't react. Its screen still displayed the loop of me, sitting at the typewriter, hesitating, sweating, thinking. I leaned in. The scene on the screen shifted to match me in real time. Every movement I made, it mirrored, with a half-second delay, a loop that was catching up. Then the archivist spoke, not with its mouth. The words appeared on the screen. "We cannot watch ourselves, not unless we forget who we are." Another line followed. "You are not the first to reach this booth, but you are the first to step inside." I asked, "What are you watching for?" The answer appeared slowly. Completion. Then another voice spoke, not from the booth, from the room. It came from everywhere, low, distorted, machine-like. "Accessing unified record. Collapse predicted. Subject has breached boundaries. Initiating identity merge." The archivist finally turned its whole body toward me. Its face fully visible now. It was me, but older, exhausted, burned, still watching. He whispered, his voice raspy and human. "You wrote your way here, you can write your way out." The air shifted. It was subtle, like pressure dropping before a storm. The booth's monitor went black. A single line appeared. "Unified record requested confirm?" Yes or no, I didn't touch the screen, but it confirmed anyway. The monitor flickered, then split into dozens of smaller squares, each one a life, a loop, a fragment. Me as a child, holding a woman's hand. Me jumping from a rooftop. Me lying in a hospital bed. Me laughing on a beach I've never seen. Me putting a gun in my mouth. Me reading to a little girl, Claire, and one that didn't move at all. A black screen labeled incomplete. I tapped it. The booth dimmed. The monitor asked, "Assume control. Merge current identity with unfinished line. Warning, this action cannot be undone." I hesitated, then typed, "Yes." The floor dropped beneath me. A second later, I wasn't in the booth anymore. I was in a bedroom, sunlight through the blinds, smell of toast from another room, soft music playing from an old radio, and on the nightstand, a photo, me and her, Claire. I remembered everything. The version that had stayed, the one that never followed the signal, never found the tower, never asked who he really was. He lived, he loved, he died at peace, and I was inside that life now. But then the edges began to flicker. The light dimmed, the walls pixelated, the room dissolved, and a voice whispered, "You can't live in what was never yours." Everything went black, and when I woke up, I was nowhere. Just the typewriter. And the page. Blank. Waiting. There was no room, no walls, no sound, no sense of time. Just the typewriter and me. And a message slowly printing on the single page in front of me. You have reached the end of memory. One identity must remain. Another line, forming letter by letter. Would you like to overwrite the original? A second page emerged beneath it. Blank. But I could feel it waiting, like a breath held in the lungs of something much bigger than me. The typewriter continued, this time in my handwriting. Overwrite will preserve current instance. All other branches will be purged. Memories, relationships, and timelines will be inaccessible. Then it paused. One more line. Claire will not exist. I froze. I didn't know her, but I remembered her. That version of me, the one who had walked away from all of this, never found the tower, never searched for answers. He had peace. He had love. He had Claire. And now I had the power to erase all of that, just to keep myself. A timer began to count down on the page. 60, 59, 58. The timer ticked. 45, 44, 43. But the screen stopped counting. Instead, it blinked once, and a new scene formed around me. I wasn't in the void anymore. I was standing in a cemetery, late autumn. Cold wind, no birds, no sound, except for the voice behind me. This is what overwrite feels like. I turned. The graves had no names, just blank headstones. Hundreds, miles. A single one bore an inscription, Claire, forgotten by design. The wind shifted. The grass peeled back, revealing a network of wires and conduit beneath. The earth was hollow, synthetic. The sky above flickered, like a screen resetting. And then the voice returned. You survive, but no one remembers you. You are real, but never loved. You continue, but nothing continues with you. I stepped forward. The gravestone crumbled. The whole landscape collapsed with it, pixel by pixel, until I stood alone again. Back at the typewriter. Back at the page. Would you like to overwrite? Yes or no? The timer was gone. The system didn't care how long I took, it would wait forever. It had before. The page pulsed faintly. Not from light, from tension. It didn't ask again, it didn't rush me. The question hovered on the page like a loaded gun. Would you like to overwrite? Yen, I sat. Looked at my hands. They were still mine, but they didn't shake anymore. Something inside me had gone quiet. Not calm, not confident, just still. I reached for the keys, and I typed no. The page blinked. Lines of code scrolled upward, too fast to read, and then the voice returned. Not synthetic now, human, mine, older, worn out. Rejection accepted. No overwrite initiated. Subject retains memory. Subject forfeits exit. Subject becomes observer. The typewriter vanished. So did the desk. So did the void. And when I opened my eyes, I was back in the booth, the one I'd entered before. But this time, I was the one sitting, still, silent. A screen in front of me, a life playing out on it. A man, walking through the desert, following a strange radio signal. And I realized it was starting again. A new loop, a new version. But this time, I would remember. It started with a window, not a metaphor. An actual window, rectangular, fogged, buzzing faintly. I didn't know how long I'd been watching from the booth. But suddenly, the screen in front of me went dark, and on the glass beside me, words began to form. External access granted. Preparing reality reintegration. Please wait. I stood, my legs were heavy, like they hadn't moved in years, and when I stepped out of the booth, the other archivists were gone, every single one. The room was silent. The chairs were empty. No sound, no hum, no system voice, just one door, open, and beyond it, light, natural. I walked through it. At first, I thought it was the desert again. Flat horizon, dust wind, empty sky. But the colors were wrong. Everything had a subtle blue tint, like old film stock exposed to radiation. The sun was in the sky but not shining. The shadows moved on their own, lagging, like they were trying to catch up. Then I saw the sign, half buried in sand, tilted sideways. The letters cracked but still legible. Welcome to Hollow Ridge, a safe community. Since night 7. I didn't know this place, but something deeper than memory ached at the name. I walked into town, and everything was frozen. People mid-step, birds mid-flight, a child holding a balloon that didn't sway in the wind, like the whole world had hit pause. Then I noticed the signs. On every window, reality declined. Authentication failed. This instance has been archived. I wasn't outside the system. I was in a retired version of it. One no longer maintained, one no longer visited. A place for forgotten versions of people like me. The town was still, utterly still. I walked past a diner where the waitress stood frozen mid-pour. The coffee never spilled. It hovered in the air, solid, as if poured into invisible code. At a bookstore, I picked up a novel from the window display. The title was blank. Every page said the same line. This page has been recycled for memory stability. I wandered the streets. Every person was posed like a wax figure, sculpted mid-life. But none of them had eyes, just flat skin where eyes should have been, as if they were rendered incomplete, discarded data. Then I saw it, at the end of the block, a house, small, white, suburban, porch light still on, and I recognized it. Not because it was mine, but because it was supposed to be. The version of me who lived with Claire. This was his home. The front door opened as I approached. No sound, just that same welcoming stillness the archive used. I stepped inside, and I heard music, faint, familiar. A song I didn't know, but somehow remembered. On the kitchen table sat a single photograph. Claire, me, and a little girl between us. All smiling. None of us real. Then a voice behind me whispered, "You're not supposed to be here." I turned and saw myself. Older, tired, wearing the same clothes as the man from the funeral loop. But his eyes weren't hollow, they were clear, sharp, knowing. He didn't speak again right away. He just stood there in the hallway, arms crossed, staring at me like I'd interrupted a memory he was still trying to enjoy. Then finally, "You're from the loop, one of the later ones, right?" I nodded. 32. "Humph," he said. "They always get clever around 30. He stepped past me and picked up the photo from the table, looked at it like it was fragile. "They offered me the overwrite once," he said. I said yes. This world? It's the reward. The retirement plan. You get to keep the illusion, the love, the laughter, the silence. He turned to me. But only if you stop asking questions. I stepped closer. "Claire, she's not real here?" He shook his head. "None of them are. But that doesn't matter. You stay long enough, you start to forget that. And then, forgetting becomes the best part. We stood there in silence. One man who stayed, and one man who walked. Finally, I asked, "Why are you still aware?" He smiled, sadly. "Because someone like you made it too far. Every time one of us breaks the loop, it echoes. And sometimes, even the sleepers start to dream." He placed the photo back on the table, then nodded toward the front door. "You can stay, or you can keep going, but you can't take this with you." He tapped the photo once gently. "If you leave now, you'll remember everything, and that's a weight no one should carry." I looked at the door. It was open now, and behind it, only dark. But this time the dark wasn't empty. It was moving, like it was ready, waiting. I walked through the door. The man, the version of me who stayed, didn't follow. He just stood there in the kitchen watching me leave like he'd seen it before, like he expected it. Outside, the world was already shifting. The frozen town blurred at the edges like ink and water. Signs peeled. Street names unraveled. The word Hollow Ridge dissolved in midair. I ran, not out of fear, out of instinct. I wasn't sure what I was running toward, only that something knew I was trying to leave. Then I saw it, a flicker of color at the horizon. A door, metal, flickering red lights above it. Set into the sky itself, like someone punched a hole in reality and installed a way out. Words appeared over it, etched in air. "Extraction possible. Please provide memory for trade." I stepped closer, and beneath the door, text scrolled, "We do not allow empty departures. Choose a memory to give back. The stronger the memory, the clearer the exit." I stood there, frozen. Thousands of thoughts rushed through me, but one rose above the rest. Claire. I saw her face, the one that never truly existed, the laugh I'd never really heard, the touch I'd never felt, the life I never lived, but missed anyway. The door pulsed softly, waiting. I stood before the door, the message still flickered. "Choose memory to trade for exit." Beneath it, a prompt appeared. "Select file." Then, as if something inside me answered, the air shifted, and I saw them, memories, laid out before me like photographs suspended in glass. Floating, turning, calling. The first, my 8th birthday, the real one. Chocolate cake. My mother singing. I touched it, it pulsed. Low value detected. Insufficient emotional weight. It vanished. The next, me and my father fishing, summer '95. It was peaceful, quiet. But when I reached for it, memory incomplete, no pain detected. It vanished too. I didn't want to touch the last one, but I did. Claire, on the porch, her hand in mine, sunlight through her hair, our daughter laughing somewhere off screen. The moment I touched it, everything went still. The system responded, acceptable. Finalize trade? Note, this memory cannot be recovered. I froze, because I remembered how I felt in that memory, even though I never really lived it, and I knew what it meant to lose it, to have a hole inside me where something beautiful used to be. But I nodded, yes. The glass frame shattered, the light disappeared, and instantly, so did the memory. Not just Claire, but the feeling of her, the meaning of her, the grief that gave me depth. It was gone, and I knew it was gone because I felt lighter, emptier. The door opened. No sound, no light, just a way out. I stepped through the door. No fanfare, no blinding light, no siren announcing escape. Just cold. An immediate, absolute cold, like I'd stepped out of a fever dream into an airless room. Then, color. Sound. A room I didn't recognize. Fluorescent lights, a desk, a clock ticking, and a window. Not digital, not simulation. A real window. Through it, I saw cars, people, moving normally, breathing, living. I stood up. My legs were weak, but real. The floor vibrated with the weight of a passing train outside. My hands were trembling. I touched the wall, felt texture, rough paint, dry air. It was real. But I couldn't remember why I was there. I didn't know how I'd arrived, or what I'd given up to get here. There was a hole in me. I could feel it, right where something warm used to live. Then, someone knocked at the door. I turned. A woman stepped in, mid-30s, sharp eyes, holding a file. She spoke gently. "Mr. Malik?" I nodded, unsure. "Do you remember anything?" I opened my mouth, paused, and said, "I was watching something. Or maybe being watched." She nodded, like she'd heard it before. "Welcome back." At first, life was quiet. Too quiet. I was given a small apartment, new identity papers, a digital bank account preloaded with more money than I remembered ever earning. No questions. No news coverage. No missing time report. Just a life. Handed back to me. I spent days walking the city, touching things, smelling things, testing reality with my fingertips like a blind man learning to see again. The sounds were real. The people were real. But my reactions weren't. They felt rehearsed, like I was playing the part of someone who had left the system. Sometimes I'd wake up gasping, not from nightmares, from nothing, no dreams, no noise, just that deep, crawling sense that someone had been speaking inside me and stopped the moment I opened my eyes. The first time I heard it was on the subway. A whisper, not outside but beneath thought. A voice that said, "You did leave, but not all of you." I looked around. No one else reacted. They couldn't hear it. Because the voice wasn't coming from the world. It was coming from me. It started small. Words I hadn't thought. Thoughts I hadn't formed. I'd be walking through a grocery store, reach for something, and suddenly, "We never liked that." I'd stop, look around, but no one had spoken. It was me, but not. One night, I caught my reflection doing something strange. I was brushing my teeth. Normal. But my reflection finished before I did. It smiled, just slightly, and then caught up. I began hearing system prompts in dreams. Flat, mechanical, calm. Narrative deviation detected. Identity sync required. Run resumption requested. The voice inside me grew bolder. Sometimes it whispered memories I'd never lived. "She died in the hospital, you know. We left her there. We always leave her." I didn't know who she was anymore. Not Claire. Not anyone. Just a weight the voice wanted me to feel. I stopped sleeping. I stopped leaving the apartment. And then, late one night, as I sat in the dark, my laptop, unopened for days, turned itself on, and a single sentence typed across the screen. "Let me finish the story." The screen blinked. Let me finish the story. I didn't touch anything, didn't type, didn't move, but the cursor kept flashing, like it was watching me back. Then the keyboard clicked, not under my fingers. It typed itself. You left me behind. I kept running. I stayed in the booth. A pause. But now I'm in here. I whispered, half to myself, "Who are you?" The screen answered. The part you forgot. The loop that didn't close. The writer without a story. I unplugged the laptop, shut it, tossed it in the closet. But the next day, the words appeared again. On my mirror, in condensation. Let me finish. On my phone screen, when it was off, we remember more together. It wasn't just haunting me, it was becoming me again. Not by force, by completion. Every version that ever lived in the system wanted the same thing, to be whole, to end. And I was the only one who ever left, which meant I was the only one who could go back. That night, I sat down at my kitchen table, notebook open, pen in hand, and I wrote 4 words. Once more from inside. The moment I did, I felt the typewriter return. Not in sound, not in space. In me. It didn't take place in the real world. There was no travel, no return flight, no map. I simply sat down and closed my eyes. The tower was already waiting, it always had been. There, in the desert. Exactly where I first found it. But this time I didn't approach it. It approached me. The sky bent inward. The sand curled like pages in a fire. And in the distance, rising slowly from the dust, came the silhouette. No longer broken, no longer rusted. Whole, polished, clean, alive. A monolith of memory, and carved into the side. Archive access. Final. As I walked toward it, I felt every version of myself moving with me. The one who drowned, the one who married, the one who looped forever, the one who never existed. All of them stepping in sync. A single thought repeating in every version's mind. Let's finish this. The door opened on its own. Same black slot, same red light. But this time, no prompt, no scan, just a voice, no longer robotic. Welcome home, Evan. The inside of the tower had changed. It wasn't a hallway anymore. No lights, no blinking interfaces, just a spiral staircase, stone, cracked, familiar. And as I walked upward, the air grew warmer, not physically, but emotionally. It felt like memories were watching me. The stairs ended in a circular chamber, white, empty. Except for one thing, a desk. The desk was made of dark wood, smooth, old, the kind they don't make anymore, and resting on it, a notebook. Black cover, no title, just one gold-etched line across the top. By Malik E. I opened it. Blank. Every page, except the very last. There, in handwriting I knew was mine, but couldn't remember writing, were 6 words. You get to choose the ending. I stared at it, and then I felt it. The others. Versions of me. Standing in the room now. Silent, patient, watching. Not to stop me, not to warn me, just to see what I'd write. Because none of them had finished the story, and if I did, it would be their ending too. I picked up the pen and placed it on the page. But before I could write a single word, a shadow moved behind me and whispered, "Careful." The last line writes back. I didn't turn around when the shadow spoke. I didn't have to. I knew what it was. Not a demon, not a monster, just another me. The last one. The version who refused to finish the story because he was afraid of what would happen after. I lifted the pen. My hand didn't shake this time, and I wrote, "He stayed." The room was silent. No collapse, no glitch, no voice. Just a moment of total calm. Then, slowly, the lights dimmed. Not because of failure, but like a stage after the curtain falls. The tower around me faded, not violently, but with grace. Walls dissolving, stairs erasing, desk turning to dust. And finally, even the notebook vanished from my hands. Its last line already sent, already stored, already archived. I stood in the dark again, but not alone. They were all there. Every version of me, dozens, hundreds. Each one nodded once, and then, one by one, they turned to dust. Not lost, released, all but one. The one who stayed behind to watch. The one who never spoke. The one who looked exactly like me, but had never blinked. He stepped forward and whispered, "Now there's only one version left." And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to be him. The tower didn't collapse. It didn't reboot, it simply waited, because now, it didn't need to hold us anymore. There was nothing left to remember, because the story was finished.